Hey, good morning. My name's Andy Beavis. I'm the product manager at Arctic for the mountain snowmobiles and riding the hardcore 165 today. On this hardcore this year, I guess the newest thing is the new clutch, our new Adapt primary, which is lighter, narrower, less inertia. A little bit better throttle response. Runs different tuning components, but we've got it tuned basically the same as last year. You know, we really like our stock setup, and we're shooting for that similar setup with the new clutches. So, I mean, constant innovation. You know, big thing that we were pushing for was lower inertia and better packaging. So the clutch overall is about 1 inch narrower. So potentially that's 2 inches per side of the vehicle because the clutch is really prominent. Less inertia, lighter weight, you know, quicker revving. And then really maintaining what we developed in the idler clutch, you know, for instant engagement and constant belt tension and constant performance over the life of the belt. You know, that's something unique that we have, and it really makes the sled work for guys that they don't have to touch them. You know, there's no maintenance, keeps the belt tight, which a lot of people don't realize what that does to the performance of the snowmobile over time. So, okay, so our hardcore is, like the name says, it's kind of our hardcore package. This is what our Black Cat guys like, you know, with the Fox shocks, coilovers, reservoirs, the QS3s. The running boards are beefed up, the rear tunnel's beefed up. It carries a little more weight, but it's built for the type of riding that those guys do. When I ride the hardcore, actually, I really like our new 146. That's kind of a play sled. Use that a lot more flatland. And out west, personally, I prefer the Mountain Cat and the Powder. I really like how the float shocks work and the lighter weight of that vehicle. So the 146 is a 2.6 track, and we also offer that in the 154. And then the 154 and the 165s are also available. Well, the 165 in the 3-inch only, and the 154 either way. So it's mostly a matter of what kind of terrain you're doing. I mean, given the terrain, like if you're following guys through deep powder and up slopes, longer and deeper the better. But if you're playing around and you want to have more fun, you know, the shorter they are, the more lively they are. You know, carrying the front, and you know, the 146 almost feels more like a crossover snowcross mountain sled, the way it's so light in the front, and you don't feel the bumps, you wheelie over the bumps. So yeah, it really depends if it's a project or a system. You know, the clutches are a system, and that's maybe it's a complicated part. You know, it takes a lot of load, it spins really fast, it really affects the performance of the vehicle. That's definitely a couple to a few years. You know, we talked a couple years ago when we did the Alpha, that was probably a 5-year process just because it was so different and so new, and developing the track and figuring out all the intricacies of making it work how we want it to. You know, that's one thing. We build the sleds, the best setup that we think is kind of average for across the board, but there's a lot to be done to any snowmobile to tune it for how you want to ride it.
You mentioned
it's pretty funny. A lot of our hill climb racers have been racing the hardcore twin rails the last couple of years, and this is the first year they've been running the Alpha. And even old school, long time, top level pros like Kyle Tapio and Tony Zollinger and Todd Tupper, they've been riding the Alphas backcountry since day one and racing the twin rails on the hill. And now that they're racing the Alphas on the hill, they're just like, I just can't see going back. The maneuverability and the traction. I mean, it was mostly built around, you know, backcountry deep snow, but the fact is that it finds traction side to side as well as front to rear like the other skid frames. And that applies on a hill, on a drag race, out in the powder. So it's pretty adaptable, but it is a very mountain specific feature. You know, it requires scratchers just that much more than a twin rail. With the tracks we put on them, you know, we have to keep speeds down with paddles over 2.5 inches. You know, the technology is just not there to keep the tracks alive at 70, 80 miles an hour on hard packs. So people always ask about shorter and shorter versions, and right now the 146 is probably as short as I feel comfortable because of the combination of the skid frame and the paddles and how it all works together.
It's sort
And I think in terms of track, a lot of it has to do with just the horsepower. You know, I've been riding that new Thundercat EPS, and I hardly ever ride trail sleds anymore, but I was riding one the other day, and all I could think is you just can't put enough track in that thing to hook up on acceleration and brake into the corners, because it goes so fast and it accelerates so hard. And yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I'm a mountain guy through and through, so for me, longer is always better. I would much prefer riding a 146 Riot trail sled than a ZR, because I'm used to what the traction does to the vehicle.